Work Hard People's Podcast. Hope everybody out there's having a great day. We have the beautiful Jordyn Cassandra with us again, driving by, doing another little pop in here. How are you?
Fantastic.
That's
Absolutely
awesome.
fantastic. Yep.
Very good. Jordyn comes to us from up there in Canada in the BC area. So uh, she is way up there in the Northwest, and we're down here in Alabama. So, good distance, but that's what makes these things great. We can talk. But Jordyn is the founder of Make Moves and Motivation, and she, does a lot of personal. I would describe, like, just from the outside looking in, the things that you post and reading your website and stuff, I would describe Jordyn's company as a personal development and educational company, right? I know you're a personal trainer as well, and do nutrition and stuff, but you really focus in on, the personal development, growing yourself from within, which I love that. That is something that I try to practice in my life on a daily basis. So, and the stuff that she puts out, people, is top notch. It will definitely help you in your life. And she has some new things she's going to roll out. She'll tell us all about it here in a minute. But one of the things I love about you, Jordyn, is that you're not just spewing this stuff. You didn't just go in a book. You've put this into practice in your own life. You've dealt with a lot of these situations, and it has grown you as an individual and turned you into what you are today. So, but thanks so much for coming on again. Love having you.
Absolutely. I was when you asked me if I was interested in coming back, absolutely. I'll come back as many times as you want me. I like talking to you, James.
That's good. That's good. So tell us what's been going on. What's been going on with Make Moves Motivation? What are you rolling out?
Well, this whole year, well, okay, so let's just rewind for a second. For the last few years, 3 years, I've been teaching courses on a few different things. It really just comes down to mind, body, and purpose. That's what we touched on last time we were
Hmm.
here, because it's all interconnected. And so, when we're trying to heal our bodies, that's always usually how we get people in, right? Because that's the first thing that we notice we want to change, because it's like kind of like the hard thing, but it's like where you decide that you're ready to invest in yourself and it's going to get you the quick win, that tangible result, that physical, people see it, the world sees it, you
Yeah.
see it, like that kind of result. Whereas like mental health isn't quite on that same level. It's getting there because it's quite brutal these days, but we're not quite like ready to invest thousands of dollars into our mind, because it's not, again, not one of those tangible physical results. It's a feeling result, but we don't know what, before we get into this, that's really what we're seeking when we go in for the physical, right? Like,
Hmm.
you can go and you can look good. I know lots of people that look good that still feel like shit,
Yeah.
so,
They're a wreck up here, 100%.
right.
I tell people all the time, I'm like, listen, you've come to me for nutrition and training, but I want you to know we need to work on the mind as well, because if we don't, ultimately you're going to fail. It will be great for a little while, but if you're not fixing what's broke inside that got you where you are, you're never going to come out the other side and be happy and whole.
Yeah. Exactly. So that's like, so where I started was obviously in the fitness realm, like everyone else. That's why I know
Yeah,
this,
that's yeah.
right? Because I didn't know that was what I didn't know. Well, I knew, I used to say, like, if I started doing the work on myself and started like unboxing all of the traumas and stuff that I had buried, that I would just get buried alive. So I'll just wait until I'm dead and then I'll figure it out then.
Yeah.
but but it was like your physical stature, like you said, what got you to where you are in the first place is here. Your physical body is a representation of what goes on in here. Your outside is happening on your well, what your inside is happening on your outside. So people are, you are carrying around all of that stuff in body weight, in binge eating, in bad habits, smoking, boozing, like all of these things that eventually surmount to being overweight, unhealthy, organ failure, exhaustion, all the things, depression that come with that. So, like physical depression. So, anyways, I started in fitness. I personally just working on myself. I wanted to feel good in my skin because I did party for a long time. I had that
Yeah.
partier's body, like, and then I was like, all right, well, now I need to figure out how to get fit. So that was my next coping mechanism, was like extreme fitness. Let's dive into that. So I did that, and I did really well with that. I competed, didn't place, but it was something that I wanted to do by myself. I coached myself from the very beginning all the way to the end because I'm stubborn like that. So that's how I learned the things that I learned about the body. I took my personal training. I took my nutrition, precision nutrition first, and then I really dove into macros because I was looking for the quick way to still have the foods I like to eat, the junk food, the ice cream, the living my life stuff, and still get my goals. So that was the first business move that I made, was mastering macros,
Yeah.
mastering reverse dieting, because after I competed, I gained a bunch of weight because didn't know a freaking thing about reverse dieting. So then I learned about that. And it was just like that organic transitioning of each step, and me being stubborn, needing to do it all myself because ultra independence was one of my trauma responses, that, that made it so that I was able to start a business on coaching, and I started coaching macros. And then as I learned more about macros and I coached more and more clients, I learned about the metabolism. I learned about how extreme deficits and diet society has just destroyed people's metabolic rate because your body's adapting. And I learned about how the body adapts. And then after all of that, I started realizing that, well, if my body adapts, what else is adapting here? And I had some big traumas that happened in 2018 and 2019. We don't need to get too far into that, but it was big loss that really devastated me, and basically was like I don't know if you've ever seen those memes, but there's like a like a cabinet, like a glass door cabinet, and all the plates are like stacked up, ready to fall out of it. and,
Yeah.
you're like, this is what I feel like if I start working on my shit. And you
Yeah.
open it, right?
That's true. When you first crack those doors to start working on yourself, it's like, oh, what am I getting into, right? Because sometimes it can be dark in there.
Oh yeah.
When you're unloading some things that you've been keeping deep down for a long time, and you start cracking those things open, it gets scary. Real fast though, before we get too far away from like macros and metabolism, I just wanted to point out, I read a study, man, it's had to be a month ago. I read this study, and it was 64 people. They divided them in half. They were all similar height, similar weight, similar body types, right? They fed one group of people 1,400 calories. They fed the other group of people 1,800 calories. At the end of, I think it was 4 weeks, at the end of 4 weeks, the groups on average lost the same amount of weight. But the group that was eating 1,400 calories, their metabolism dropped by half compared to the other group. And that's kind of what you were getting into. When you really diet down like that, anytime you're eating in a deficit, your metabolism's slowing a little bit. And when you really crash your food, your metabolism is going to really fall off. And that's why the rebound effect happens, because our bodies will do everything that they can to survive. They are going to store, they're going to do that stuff. And when you diet down that hard, and then
Mm-hmm.
you start eating again, your body is not using it like it's supposed to. It's holding on to everything that it possibly can. And
Yep.
people need to understand that this is a marathon. It is not a race. Even if you're doing a show, the best coaches out there with the best athletes, you don't see them crashing down real hard. You look at, like, let's take our Olympia winners, C-Bum and Derek Lunsford. I follow them on Instagram. I see what they're eating. They are eating into the show. They're not like, I mean, yeah, they're pulling carbs and things and water. I mean, there's some manipulation that has to go on, especially those last couple weeks. But for the most part, they're eating. They're eating a good amount of food.
And that's, I mean, that's because they know they don't have to do that shit, you know, like because
Yeah.
they learned this stuff. But you're right, the body is trying always to survive. So think about like if you just think in terms of survival instead of just weight loss, and you think of like your goal is to survive. So your body is like a magical miracle. Like it's
Yeah.
amazing, right? Because it's designed to from like years and years and years and years and years ago, caveman days, if there's a drought and there's no food, your body will slow down its need for food so that you can continue to survive. And
Yeah.
this is why we have so many I can get right into like keto and diabetes, the link there. I can get into like the deficits and all of that because there's a significant adaptability happening in your body all the time, and it's magical if you know about it. But if you are misinformed and you are told to eat 1200, I hear about general practitioners saying, and I don't mean to slander doctors, there's a lot of really good doctors out there, but a lot of general practitioners don't know anything about this. They're not taught
No,
anything about
they take
this.
one class in med school, like one course. It's like a 4 or 8 week course, and they do not. They're not focused on nutrition. They're
Right?
not. I mean, they understand the basics. They understand, hey, this guy's overweight and we need to bring your weight down. You need to eat better. But they don't dive into nutrition. I almost would guarantee know more about nutrition than most of the general practitioners out there because they just don't study it.
Well, exactly. And so, but then we get told to consult our doctor
Yeah.
before we make any like moves in our plans, right? So it's like it doesn't make any sense. But the adaptability is coming down to like if you're in a deficit for a really long time, your body is going to slow down, not just for survival, but like, well, for survival, but not just in that way of like gaining weight. And now your body is storing all of that because it's afraid of not being fed again, right? It's like
Yeah.
this is like smart. It's like having a smartphone in your body. Like it's like, yo, we actually need to like hold on to some of this because this person is very unpredictable and I don't know if they're going to feed me consistently. So I'm going to hold on to this so that I can continue to keep them here on earth, like
Yeah.
this side of the dirt. And so um what we do is we go and we diet down, and then we get mad when our body won't lose weight anymore. And anytime we eat anything anymore, our body's storing it. And it's like, why is this happening? Well, if
Yeah.
you learn about reverse dieting, it's the exact same thing. We can use the adaptability to our advantage instead of once we know about it, and we can start to increase our calories on a slow structured basis and allow our body to adapt to that. But if you don't do that, if you don't have that, then you're always going to gain weight on the flip side of your deficit.
Yeah,
So it's
absolutely. I actually use when I have people that have a good amount of weight that they want to lose. I tell them right up front, I'm like, listen, we're not doing this in one shot. We're going to diet for some weeks and then we're going to slide into maintenance. We'll bring the calories down a little bit and we'll reach a certain point and then we're going to slide into maintenance and just try to stay there for 4 or 5 weeks. And that is allowing the body to adjust at your new levels, right? And then we'll go back into a deficit again for a little while and then level out again until you're where you need to be. And that at any time, if you just go straight, if you need to lose 100 pounds and you go straight shot, you see those guys and girls, they'll lose 100 pounds, they'll look great for 3 or 4 months, and the next thing you know, they're coming out the other end again. They're gaining all this weight. And that's why exactly what you're saying.
yeah. Yeah, it's
So, yeah,
crazy. The adaptability of the body is like I had one guy reach out to me. His name is Jeff, and he um had asked me about keto because of what I post. And he didn't ever become a client. I just told him what to do. And
yeah,
he's one of those people who's like, just tell me what to do and I can do it. And so because he had someone tell him what to do with keto before. So he's one of those people that actually doesn't need any support to be accountable. Like he's like, I'm going to do it. And he does it every
yeah.
day. No compromise, no nothing. So he did that with keto for 2 years, did not skip a beat. Not one day was he not keto, which is what like most people don't do that. Most keto
No,
people are
most
not
people
able
do
to do that.
keto and never are in ketosis. So,
Right?
yeah,
Exactly.
they're
So
never there.
It's crazy. So he did that. And then he comes to me, he's like, okay, so I stopped having progress with keto. So I kind of just said, screw it, and started eating normal again. I've put on a ton of weight. But now I've gotten into the doctor, and the doctor has told me that I am on the verge of being type 2 diabetic. And I've never had an issue with this in my life. And he's saying that some people who do keto end up with pre-diabetic symptoms, and some people are just like special or have this like defect or something. And I'm like, oh my goodness. And I just like connected the dots right there. I was like, no. I was like, you said you did this like actually every day for 2 years. He's like, yeah. I'm like, okay, so think about your body as an adapting machine. Every single organ in your body is always adapting. Well, doesn't it make sense that your pancreas would and your cells would stop really interacting with your insulin, because there's no insulin being produced into your no
Yeah, no
surplus of insulin.
glucose really, right? It's all
Why
fat
would
and
there's
yeah,
no need for it? So
very
your
little.
body's
Yeah.
able to adapt, and slowly your pancreas will forget or go to sleep on how to produce that insulin when you so then you get sugar into your system out of nowhere, and you have no insulin production
Yeah.
happening or minimal, because so that's the adaptability there. So if you
Hmm.
think about how they've pushed keto and all of and diet and low carb Atkins all since like early 2000s, late
Yeah.
90s, and the surge of diabetes that we have now,
Yeah.
is
And
that
you're right.
linked?
It's mainly because it's not so much the keto itself. It's when they come off and they start eating all these carbs. And like you said, the pancreas is not prepared to produce the insulin to deal with the glucose that's now in the blood. And so that's where you get the type 2 diabetes issues. That's where, you're waking up with a 200 blood glucose level in the morning, and that's not good for anybody.
Right? So, and then we have also, because of deficits, we have the binging, right? So that would
Hmm.
also screw with your insulin resistance. So I think I had it backwards. Type 1 diabetes is where your pancreas no longer produces insulin or
Yeah,
doesn't produce it efficiently. And type 2 is where you have insulin resistance. So that would be
correct.
like where you have the restrict and binge thing, because you're
Hmm.
restricting for a period of time, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, a month, and then you
Yeah,
have a weekend binge. And then when you have, or if you're doing it even every so few days, some of my binge eating clients were binging 2 or 3 days a week. Well, your blood sugars are always going to be so high, and you're not counteracting it with the deficit, because
yeah.
when you're in the deficit, you're still trying to manage the blood sugars from 2 days ago, right? Because it was so
Hmm.
much. So your cells stop being affected by your insulin as much. It takes much more insulin to bring your blood sugar down.
Yeah,
So if you think about it, diet society has pretty much created the issue of diabetes, or at
yeah.
least inflamed it, right?
100%. I agree 100%. That and the that and I think the it's okay to be who you are. Not to call anybody out, but I'm telling you right now, if you are standing and looking in the mirror and you are severely overweight and you say, I'm happy with that, that's fine, that's who I am, just, get your funeral arrangements. 'Cause yeah, there's the outliers that are overweight and live poor lives and live till they're 90. I get it. But averages, if you look at the average numbers, if you are treating your body in an unhealthy way, it is not going to last. It
Well,
just isn't.
absolutely.
And yes, I want people to be happy with who they are in the situations that they're dealing with, but I also want them to, as you say, work on the mind, work on what is broken inside, what is creating that defense mechanism. Because I understand I was an emotional eater, man. I mean, my family growing up, that's what it was. You were sad, you ate. You're happy, you ate.
Mhm.
This event, you ate. And it wasn't like you were eating, grilled chicken and, vegetables. And no, you were eating pizza and burgers and ice cream and candy and all of those things that are not good for you.
Right? That
So, and it
dopamine hit.
all's here. It's
Hmm.
here, man. It's here. So hey, what are you rolling out?
Well, okay, so I kind of totally digress there, I guess, hey,
Yeah, I
into
didn't
the
want us to
body
go too
stuff.
far down the diet hole and then we
Yeah,
lose
yeah,
what you're
yeah,
what
yeah.
you're doing here.
Okay, so let's come back to where we were before we went down that.
Yeah,
rabbit hole
sorry, that
there.
was
So,
my fault.
so
I'm
I,
passionate about that subject. That's all.
oh, me too, totally. But
Sorry.
it's all interconnected. So from there, like when I started doing my healing work on the inside, it wasn't easy, and it definitely took, step by step and a lot of like forward and backward motion. But what I learned is that, like you said, it's literally 99% mental. Like there's education that you can accumulate in how to treat your body lovingly, right?
Hmm.
But it really comes down to treating your body lovingly. Like,
Yeah,
and you have to love yourself to treat your body lovingly. You have to feel like you deserve it. You have to feel like you're worthy of that. You have to feel like it's a reward to be kind to your body, to nourish it, to fuel it. And there are, again, levels of education that you can get, like even just small levels of like how to fuel and nourish your body. You can do that on a YouTube channel. You could probably just go and talk to James in a conversation and figure out 3 steps on how to love my body better, like how to treat it better. But it's all, whether or not you're going to do it consistently is going to come down to your mind. And the sickness we see in the world, not just physical sickness, but like the depression, the hatred, the division,
mm,
the you against me, neighbors against each other, like family members against each other. Like there's so much. Everybody's afraid of being judged. Everybody's afraid of being caught looking not good enough, right? Like that's really
yeah.
the essence of everything. Nobody wants to be caught. So everybody's putting on masks. Everybody's living the highlight reel. But inside, they're outside, what people think of them or what they put out into the world is nowhere near what they feel like on the inside. They feel like a hot mess. They feel like they
100%.
hate themselves, and they just bury it in hustle and grind, in fitness, in substance abuse, in like so many different things, binge eating, food, sex. Like people are doing that and they're numbing out with so many different things, disorders, sicknesses. Like people love diagnoses because that perpetuates why they are feeling the way that they're
Hmm.
feeling. So it's like, what I found is that I look like around in the world. There's a period of time, 2020 and 2021, where I like saw people just like at each other's throats that were friends, that loved each other, that were just and I know that it was happening with religion conversations, and the conversations that you don't ever bring up, religion, politics,
Politics, the
right?
ones I bring up all the time.
Right. So like, but I knew that that was happening already in the world, but like
Yeah.
to see everybody with the medical crisis that we had, to see all of that happening, I had a few like devastating moments where I was like, I feel like the world is falling apart. And I like would just, I had a few like where I just broke down and bawled about it because it like cut me that people were so caught in this like trap, of being against each other when
Yeah,
really
the
we should be.
division,
It's
the
crazy.
division is insane, whether it be politics or religion, just those things. And I don't understand it because I do kind of understand it. It's groupthink, right? And it's one side being manipulated by their leadership and another side being manipulated by their leadership to go out and fight out these views in a public forum and try to get instant gratification or, troll people, get them canceled, whatever, if they don't believe with your view set. But I have often said, I don't care if you take a person on the very far right and a person on the very far left as individuals and you sit them down in a room together and they just talk about things that they agree on, they will find that they are more alike than they are different. Because we all want the same things, right? We want to have the opportunities to be free, to love our families. We want our children to grow up in a healthy environment. We want decent education. We want to help the downtrodden. At least I do. We want to help the downtrodden. We want to help those that are in need, lift them up, and they'll lift others up. And, we're just pulling each other up, right? But we get so caught up in that. It comes down to that instant gratification, right? That dopamine hit, oh, somebody liked what I said on Facebook. and then
Totally.
they're going after it. And it's
Yeah,
destructive. It's destructive to your mind.
it absolutely is. And like a big part of that too is that not enoughness part inside. So the not enoughness part makes you identify with something. You need to identify with something. You need to identify with your opinion, with your political views, with these things. And then anytime that somebody says something against what you're now identifying with, you feel like they're attacking you because you've grabbed onto this and said, this opinion makes me worth something. So now that I
Yeah.
believe this and I stand by this, now I have something that makes me special, like, and that's not really like the conscious thought, but that's what's happening. And then anytime somebody says, well, I'm a leftist and you're a rightist, and you're like, well, rightists are the best. But you have to prove your thoughts right, your opinions right, because if you're wrong, then what are you? Nothing again, right? So
Yeah.
that's where it comes down to. So what I did was I started building courses that treat the individual in a way, like, not that we treat the individual, but like it's going to give you the means to, from the bottom up, starting with body, and working all, like, just not even body, like doing anything for your body, but just like the mind body connection, and connecting that together and teaching people how to release those fears. Not only are we learning how to release them, but why we have them in the first place. Like, why do we believe that we're not good enough? Where does that come from? Does it come from trauma? Does it come from just being a human being and having a brain? And that's what the scientific purpose is for your brain, is to make you
Yeah.
feel like you're not enough. So you're always in pursuit of more. So you continue to survive, right? Like
Yeah.
that's why we feel like that. But we're taught that it's trauma, and that means we're sick. And that if you're not happy, that you're broken, or that you need to be medicated. Everything always points back to being medicated, and it's like, no. we just
Yeah.
need to we just need to learn about the mind, why the mind is the way it is, and then start to catch the subconscious programs that play out, and remember, like, learn how to act with love again. But it's hard to act with love when you're always afraid, and we
Yeah.
are always afraid of not being good enough, right?
And I think being told it's okay is important too, because if you're depressed, that's okay. Our bodies are meant to get depressed sometimes. If you are
Yes.
sad, that's okay. If you're angry, it's okay. If you fail, a lot of people, the line failure isn't an option is, I hate it. I don't like it, because failure is an option, and it is the best teaching tool we have. When we lift in the gym to grow muscles, what do? We lift to failure. Why? Because failure promotes growth. And that is the same thing in our everyday life, right?
Yep.
Dream big and fail, and then learn from your failure. That's the thing. One of the things in my other job, so I actually have an insurance company, right? And
Hmm.
I'm contracted with several different several different uh, companies that do insurance, and I can just, every product's different, right? But the group that holds my license, we classify ourselves as a personal development company that uses insurance is to help families and provide an income, right?
Yep.
And we do, like, 4 days a week. We do personal development training every morning, right? We do about an hour Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and on Fridays we're usually reading a book of some sort, some type of book. And we've been reading this book, Chase the Lion. I don't know if you've ever read it, by Mark Batterson, but there was a thing in here. I just read it, and I want to, because we're just talking about that. I kind of, he says, I'm not convinced that our true date of death is the date listed on our death certificate. Sadly, many people die long before their heart stops beating. We start dying the day we stop dreaming. And ironically, we start living the day we discover a dream worth dying for. And I think we're not dreaming. We're looking for the dopamine hit. We're so afraid to fail in the public eye. And when we do, we allow it to devastate us. And then, like you said, now you're feeling depressed. So what do? You go to the doctor because you can't make yourself happy. You need a pill to make yourself happy. And then you're down that rabbit hole. It's such an important thing what you're doing. I just want people to understand how important. I love what you're doing. It is so important to really fix the problem.
Totally. Yeah. So like what I did is like I built a couple courses that I have run with groups of people, and like there's something about group courses, that like group integration courses, that because like what we do in our courses is what we did in our courses when we were doing them live and teaching them live is we would meet in a Zoom setting, we would connect, talk about our celebrations for the week, like what wins do we have. My groups were small, like 20 people, and we would go through a concept, a lesson that I was teaching them. And there was 10 weeks, and we would move through, there's 10 weeks in one course, 12 weeks in another course. But the 10-week course was moving through learning about the mind-body connection, learning about why your mind is the way it is, why we think that we're not good enough, how our brains develop in childhood, then moving through how to forgive our past selves, and then how to use your traumas to build out your purpose, to give them meaning so they don't hurt you anymore, and then we move through that, and then how to be present, how to be in the body, how to connect with yourself, how to connect with the moment, how to connect with your life again instead of being up here all the time. And that course was like the transformation that occurred in there, and the connections those people made, like it was, I don't do anything for them. I mean, I do. I facilitate it. I give them the journaling, the work, I give the guidance that comes to mind in the moment when they're sharing. But like they did magic together, and the transformation was insane. It was just incredible. So there was that. And then I also built a course teaching people how to coach macros, like how to facilitate a reverse diet for someone else or for themselves, because I can't do that by myself. I can't
Yeah.
change the world's metabolism by myself. So
No.
there was that, right? And I also
Yeah.
thought that people need access to that. People need access to this information. And then I also built like how to build a coaching business course, which is like from the ground up, like how to start meeting people on social media, how to figure out what your niche is, how to help people, how to build your coaching business out of your personal overcoming of your personal stuff, so that you can't ever get imposter syndrome, because you did it, because you're the proof.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? So there's,
Absolutely. 100%.
right? So that's those three things. I'm trying to like get to the point.
No,
Those
you're
three
you're doing
things
great. You're doing great.
were like the meat and potatoes of what I was teaching people. But then what I recognized was that I I charged about $600 per course,
Hmm.
and people can't afford that. People struggle to afford, even like I had a couple that were like $1,200, and they're really impactful courses, but the world is like hard. And like I said before, people have a hard time investing into this
Yeah.
because they don't get the tangible result, and they think that the tangible result will make the world like them more, but it's not about making the world like you more. It's about making you like you more. And naturally your world will like you more because you like you more. So what I realized is that, and I looked around too at all of these other coaching, these gurus and mental like mind coaches, and people are teaching this kind of stuff, and there's only a handful that are doing it at an affordable rate, me included. And I just like, I was like, I feel like I need to create something where people can access this for like low ticket, like a dinner out a month
Hmm.
kind of pricing, right? So what I did this year, in right after our last podcast, I would say, or maybe I was in the middle of it and I just didn't tell you about it. But I started recording and making the courses into pre-recorded stuff. So I now have 22 weeks worth of mind mastery courses, both with videos that are 10 minutes or less, because people are busy and concepts are kind of hard to grasp anyways. Like there's a big deal in each one of each week. So, and then a worksheet with journaling questions. And so I've got 22 weeks of that. And then I've got how to master your body and take your body back from what we've been taught, which is all wrong. With the macros coaching course, learning how to
Hmm.
reverse diet, how to manipulate your metabolism, how to do this for other people. And then the pay it forward section, which is like learning how to do that. And I pre-recorded it all and I put it into Make Moves Academy. And I charge $111 a month for people to, which is $85 US, by the way.
Yeah.
And every week I have a live group session, just like I did with my courses before. And it's on a new training that has probably in relation to what we're learning in the courses, but because it's self-study and people are enrolling all the time, it's just, I felt like I needed to give a little more. And I also felt like we needed that connection point where we're meeting every week, we're sharing with each other, we're growing together, because that's what the world is missing, right? We need to learn that our neighbor is just as afraid as we are, so that we're not afraid of them judging us because
Yeah.
they're just as afraid as we are. So if we want to heal the world, we have to heal ourselves. And I wanted to make it so that I noticed with like my one-on-one clients, like a lot of them do fairly well for themselves. And the people that wanted to work with me but couldn't, they literally couldn't. Like they literally
Hmm.
can't. And the world is expensive right now. And mental
Yeah.
health and learning this stuff about our mind and learning how to heal should not be a luxury. It shouldn't be. So that's why I
No,
built the
you're right.
academy.
I do something similar. So the podcast was started for that very purpose, to disseminate information to help people be better with
Yeah.
nutrition, training. I do coaches corners where I have two or three different. We did one with we had a uh two strongman competitors, a power lifter and a bodybuilder, right? Discuss the different training types, the different nutrition programs. I just do things like that to disseminate information. And then I also do pro bono coaching. So I do it, and that really depends on the way I choose the people, because I can only handle so many people myself, right? But the way I choose them is really, it comes down to, are you willing to put in the work? Are you willing to stay consistent, right? If you have that mindset, I will work with you. At my local gym, I don't coach anybody for money at my local gym, and I probably have 20 clients there. When I'm in there, you want me to train you, you want to work with me, you want to work out together, you need some help in an area, let's do it, right? I just
Amazing.
don't do it. I work with the local high school football team in the gym on their strength programs, and helping them with that. And I love doing it, right? I mean, I am a coach by nature. Every job I've ever had, I've always migrated into a training or coaching role. I love doing it. I'm passionate about it. So I love what you're doing. I love that you're scaling it to where people can afford it. I mean, it's one of those things. Sometimes we have to make choices, right? Do you want to go out and get those cheeseburgers and go to McDonald's five or 2, 3 days a week, or do you want to take that money and work on yourself and be a little bit better, right? Improve your standing within. There's something. The best advice I could give anybody. There's something that I do. I try to do it twice a day, at night and in the morning. I will stand in the mirror and have a conversation with myself, and I will point
Nice.
out my failures for the day. I'll point out my successes, and then I'll have a discussion with myself on, okay, this is the area that I fell short today. How can I fix that tomorrow? And then first thing in the morning, I'm up, I'm by myself. Usually I'm the first one up in the house. I get up every morning around 4:30, 5 o'clock, right? And I do the same thing. I have some reflection. I look at myself in the mirror again and I say, okay, we said we're going to do these things today to better where we fell short yesterday. And then those are the things I work on that day. And I try to do that every day. And it helps me to be humble, to just call myself out and say, you're an idiot, man. You said you were going to do this and you didn't do it. You needed to do these things and you didn't do it. And what happened because of that? What was the ripple effect of your day because you didn't do those things? And
Mhm.
so every day I'm just trying to get just a little bit better. Some
Yeah.
days are flat. It doesn't happen. Some days you even backslide a little bit, but I don't think there's ever a status quo. You're either growing or shrinking, right? And that works mentally, physically. It doesn't matter, right? So I'm always trying to grow. Now, of course, none of us are perfect. We're going to have setbacks. We're going to have things that get in the way. But it's how do you deal with those failures, right? Do you, you know, get in your little pity pot, sit in a corner and brood over it for weeks at a time, or do you, you know, put some
Yeah.
action in and try to get things squared away?
Well, absolutely. And I mean, the biggest problem in this world is shame anyways. So,
Hmm.
like as an athlete and extremist for most of my life, I took life very seriously. I took my progress very seriously. And I think that's important. Like, yes, we
Yeah,
need to we need to pay attention to that. But the shame is what keeps you paralyzed. The shame is what keeps you cycling back to that same old bullshit. So if we could forego the shame part, like, you know, we talk all the time about how this isn't your practice life. And I love the reason why we say that, because it's meant to get people off the couch, it's meant to people
yeah,
to get people moving and being like, okay, like I should probably, my life means something and I probably should make it count because I'm not going to be here forever. I love the logic behind that. But when we hold on to that for so long, like let's use that to get moving. But once we're moving, let's play a little
yeah.
bit,
Because it's
like
a
let's,
one-shot deal, right? You don't ever know when that ticket's going to end. You don't
and
ever
maybe
know
it
when the
is your
ride is
practice
over.
life.
Yeah,
Maybe it is. Like, let's treat it like it is a practice. How much more fun do you have when you're at a practice? When you're
yeah,
when you're rolling, you're still growing, you're still working hard, but there's no fucking pressure to get anywhere, to win
100%.
anything. You're not in
Yeah,
competition with anybody else. You're just there to have fun, to get better, and that's it. So maybe we treat this as our practice life. Maybe it is our practice life, and we take the shame out of like not doing good enough today. Well, I did maybe not good enough per somebody else's standards or my own expectations, but I did what I could with what I had in the tank. I'm always doing what I can with what I have in the tank, even if I think in hindsight that I could have done more. I can't go back and fix it. So like you said, what can I do tomorrow? What can I
yeah.
do to make this more aligned with me, or make myself feel better, to feel like I did show up for myself today? But
Hey, Jordan, I think that's where that the journaling that you talk about, that you have
yes.
your people, that is the same thing as looking in the mirror, writing it down, pen to paper, or whether you like to do it on your laptop, whatever, but just getting those thoughts out, having that, it's because it, to me, journaling is almost like it's like a discussion with yourself. You're talking to yourself while you do it, and it just helps you see things that you wouldn't see in any other way.
Well, that's literally exactly it. Like I always tell people, it's like, because they're like, why do I have to write it down? I think about it all day long. And I'm like, that's why.
Yeah,
Because you
that's
think about it all
exactly.
day long.
Get it yeah. Get it. It's a way to get it out. You can get your garbage out if you need to. You can, whatever it is. Uh, just that ability to do that is it's just gonna help set the framework of your mind in a sense of order,
Well, and
right?
then
So,
you also become the third party, right? If you
mhm.
write it down and you look at it, you get to look at it more objectively now, because you're kind of like, well, that's some bullshit, Whereas like when it's up here, you're like, oh my gosh, I must be terrible at everything. I must hate myself. Everything sucks. I suck, blah, 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 blah. And then you write it down and you're like, wow, that's some negative stuff there, sis. Like,
Yeah.
why you gotta be like that?
Yeah. And the other thing, you're right that we do live in that shame culture now. Um, I'm very lucky where I live in the South, people, I mean, it still goes on, but people are genuinely very friendly down there.
Hmm.
Just in general. I mean, you go to the store, hey, how you doing? There's, people they talk to each other. It's just it's a very different lifestyle in the South.
Totally.
They're very respectful of like elders and things like that. But people just tend to be kind. Where when I've traveled into other parts of the country, up north, especially like in the Northeast, they're not very nice. Just to be straight out, they're just like, what the fuck do you want? I mean, it's like they're not, it's a totally different way of life.
Totally.
And I
Yeah.
love it because shaming doesn't do anybody anything, right? I mean, there's absolutely no need to be putting people down. I like to lift people up. I mean, in the podcast, don't forget to smile. I like to see people smile.
Yeah.
Show me them chicklets. It's beautiful. Embrace it. Enjoy your day.
Absolutely. But I mean, we shame ourselves more than
Of
anything else.
course.
Like always. Like and
Hmm.
it's past shaming. And that's what I want to teach people is that like you don't choose the thoughts that show up in your head. You're not choosing to shame yourself. Those are programmed thoughts. They just
Hmm.
come because you have an emotional response to them. And they're like, oh, your brain's like, huh, that did something in the body. That's a good one. I'm going to use that one again. However, it doesn't know it doesn't know the difference between a good emotional response and a bad emotional response. It just knows emotional investment. And it's like, so the more that we are having thoughts, these negative thoughts, and we feel it, the more they come. And that's the
Hmm.
game is rigged. It's literally rigged. So that's why I want to teach people like your mind, you aren't broken because you're depressed. You like we have so many mental health gurus and coaches and stuff out there saying just change your thoughts, but they don't give the background of like if you can't change them right away, it's not your fault. Like because it's
Yeah.
not your fault,
Or the
and
tools necessarily to start that, because nothing happens overnight.
nope,
Nothing's easy, right? I
nope,
don't care if it's physical transformation, mental transformation, it requires hard work, some dedication and discipline, and you have to work at it because you're
yeah,
going to mess it up. We
yeah.
all do. We all screw up on a daily basis, man. I mean, we mess things up. But if you're not afraid to put in that work, if you
Yeah.
can, even if it's, I tell people, even if it's one little thing, how do you eat an elephant, Jordan? You don't put the whole thing in your mouth. You eat it one bite at a time,
Yeah.
right? And that's how you have to go about anything, whether it's a physical transformation, whether it's an educational experience. You learn what you can today, and then you start again tomorrow and learn a little bit more. And it could just be a little bit. And some days you'll make big gains, and some days it's small gains, but it's progression. That's the key. Keep moving forward, one foot in front of the other.
Well, and that's exactly it. That's what I mean by like practice life because we take
Hmm.
everything so serious and we're always thinking about the destination. And like that is stealing your life from you because every day that you wake up that you're not at the destination you think you should be at, you don't like yourself that day. You don't like your
And you're
life that
missing the
day.
ride.
Right, and that's the problem. It's like we're all destination focused. When I have a six-figure business, when I have no debt, when I buy the car, when I have the body, when I meet the girl, when I whatever, and then you get it and you've never learned how to be happy in the moment. So by the time you get there and you have the thing, you've not even trained your brain how to be happy in the moment before that. So how are you going to be happy in this one? No, you got to set your sights on something else, and your whole life will be wasted with like it's like the dog with the bone with the fishing rod,
Yeah,
the cartoon dog,
yeah.
right? And
Keep
you have to
chasing that thing
always,
forever.
and every time you catch the bone, you have to put a new one because you don't know how to
Hmm.
be without you don't even know how to exist without having something to chase. So then
Yeah.
everything that you get, you don't even taste the bone. You eat it so fast and you're on to the next one. And it's like
Hmm.
we need to learn how to like pause, how to step away from what our mind says, how to learn to love the moment that we're in. And we're never going to be happy, not with your physical self, not with your business, not with any amount of money that you have, not with anything if you don't learn how to do that first.
No,
So that's,
100%. I mean, goals are definitely important, right? Because it gives us a
yeah,
sense of direction. But if you aren't enjoying the ride every day on your way to your goals, then what's the point?
yep.
What's the point? I mean, that's my greatest pleasures cost me nothing. It's a hug from my grandchildren. It's a hug from my wife in the morning. My kids popping by, whatever. Those are the greatest joys. Um, and if I was so focused on what I want to achieve ultimately in my life, I'd miss those.
That's
They
exactly
wouldn't,
it.
yeah, I'd miss them completely.
Yeah. I mean, that's like literally what I tell. I've like gone on many rants about it, but it's like, you know, we get so caught up in like your best life is when you have all of those things, the car, the money, the jet, the business, the reputation, the whatever, right? And I'm like, no, your best life is right here, right now, in the people that you love, in the moment. Like, literally, you just described it. Your best life is right here, and you're missing it. You are missing it and forfeiting it for some future moment that is where you're apparently going to be special enough to be able to enjoy your life. Like, how about right now? I'll give you permission to enjoy your life right now as it is.
Yes,
Here's your permission if you
absolutely.
think you need it, right? Like, yeah.
100%. I'm telling you, it's one of the things I love about you to death. It's one of the things that has just like sucked me into you from the very beginning that I first came in contact with you is your positive attitude. You're always looking to help people. And you talk about that stuff. I mean, one of the things I kind of look forward to is you ask, I think it's on Wednesdays on your Facebook, you ask, what are you thankful for today?
Yep.
Right? And I love that because it gives people an opportunity to stop and think about it. Hey, what am I thankful for today? What was good today? And we need more of those moments. We need to
Totally.
take that time for ourselves and sit back and go, hey, what am I thankful for today? Not just like, do you guys celebrate Thanksgiving up there?
We do, but in October. It's
Okay,
long
so
gone.
like yeah, so like we got Thanksgiving coming up next week, and it's not just at Thanksgiving, right? You don't
Yeah.
just be kind on Christmas. It's give of yourself completely.
Yep.
Serve people. There are a couple things I don't I know that you're a Christian, correct? I think we discussed that a little bit before. Um I am, and I mean to each their own. But there's a couple things that I literally are the cornerstones of what I live my life by, and it comes from Scripture. And the first one is as Christ is on the cross, and he says, "Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do."
That's
Right.
probably the best line in the Bible.
So
Right
my
there.
my thought process, and I was not always like this. There were times in my life in my late 20s and 30s where I was a very bitter man. I went through some things that
Oh, yes.
that's a whole nother show. But um I worked really hard to be very forgiving of other people's transgressions and mistakes and understand that none of us are perfect. That's number one thing that I live by. The other thing that I live by is serve your fellow man. We are all here as God's children, and we are all here to uplift each other. And
Absolutely.
we shouldn't fail at that. I don't care what it is. You may say, "Oh, well, I don't have money to help other people." You don't need money to help other people. Saying hi to somebody, asking somebody how they're doing, helping somebody put their groceries in their car, just a wave and a smile is serving your fellow man, right? Serve each other. Let's do this together. This does not have to be a solo journey.
Absolutely.
But I try to live my life by those two principles more than any other. That is kind of my focus. And I believe me, I've had some opportunities where I've had to put that in practice. Like I had a dude, I want to say it was 5 years ago, 6 years ago. My son was 16, or no, he was 15. He hadn't turned 16 yet. He had his learner's permit. We went to the store to get groceries. It was uh it was July 2nd. I can't remember the year. It was like 5, 6 years ago, but we had come back. We were getting groceries because mine and my wife's anniversary is the third. And we were getting
Mm.
some stuff. We were going to have a barbecue with the family and stuff for our anniversary. So we got back. My wife was home. I went to the door because I thought it was open. And it wasn't. So I turned around to get the keys from my son, and I had a guy on my doorstep with a gun at my chest. He just some 19-year-old kid cruising through the neighborhood. And I live in the South. We all carry guns down here, right? So, just cruising through the neighborhood, thought, I'll get more into him in just a sec, but he pulled the trigger and he didn't have one in the chamber. And I was giving him my wallet when he pulled the trigger. Like I had my wallet in my hand. And I kind of pushed him back and went for my gun as he was putting one in, and he put one in my gut and grazed me with another one, and I ended up shooting him 3 times. Now he did not die, thank goodness, because the last thing I ever want to do is kill another human being.
Yeah.
Um, but all that went down, I mean, obviously in seconds, right? I found out when I came out of the I was out of the hospital that same day. Fortunately, the bullet went in my gut, bounced off my rib cage, and came out kind of my back area, right?
Crazy.
So it didn't hit any organs, right? I'm coming out of the hospital, and this kid's family is all outside of the emergency room. And I'm with my son-in-law, and I'm like, okay, I don't know how this is going to go. His mother and his aunt kind of came up and cornered me at the car, and I didn't know how this was going to go. Mom says to me, she goes, I am so sorry that my son did this to you. He has been a perfect, no mistakes in his life, no deals with the law, nothing until about 3 months ago. He got involved with some bad people, started doing drugs, and it has led him down this path that ended up with you. And we had a little prayer. I told her, I said, I just hope that he makes it, because he was pretty critical at the time. And it wound up being paralyzed from like the chest down.
Damn.
So I went to the judge. Now I'm thinking, okay, can I put my principles in practice? Can I forgive this young man? So what I did was, the district attorney was like, hey, okay, we're going to prosecute, da, da, da. And I said, listen, hold on. I understand that there's consequences for actions here, but the last thing I want is for this one action to be the one that destroys this 19-year-old boy's life for the rest of his life. I do not want this kid sitting in prison. I do have some conditions. I need him to apologize and admit what he did. And if he will do that, I am willing to go to the judge and ask him for leniency. Well, in Alabama, we have gun crime, automatically 20-year sentence. Okay, automatic. But they have something called youthful offender. If you're under 21 and you've never committed any crime, have any infractions, the judge can grant youthful offender, which then he can take control of the sentencing guidelines. The kid did, man. Very apologetic. Family was very apologetic. He owned it. He talked about all the things. I 100% forgave him, I wanted this to be the precipice that sent him down a path of doing good, right? And that's what ended up happening. He ended up just getting probation with mandatory education so that he could get himself a trade or something where he could be a productive member of society. And it all turned out well. It could have turned out tragically, but it didn't.
Totally.
Everybody came out alive. And I, at that point, I knew that the principles that I had worked so hard to live my life by had taken hold. And the silver lining, I always look for silver linings in anything, right? Whatever bad comes my way, I'm looking for the silver lining. How is this going to better me? How can I work through this? I'm always looking for that. In that 15 seconds, I learned more about the man that I had become and the man that my son was becoming than I could have in any other way. Because for me, my concern, even as I'm laying on the ground bleeding, right? My instant concern was for that kid because I knew I hurt him bad. And I knew that I was going to be okay. I was breathing okay. I wasn't like spurting arterial blood. I knew I was going to be okay. And when the paramedics came up, like they were coming to me and I said, no, you need to go to him right now. He is in trouble. He's hurt bad. And so I learned about myself. And then that forgiveness process of him, I learned about who I was. But with my son, so the kid, when he went down, the gun was still in reach. And I didn't know he was still reaching, right? I didn't know it was kind of a nerve reaction because of spinal cord being severed, right? He was just reaching out. But my son has been raised around guns. I told him, I said, hey, get that gun and clear it, get it away from him. He did. He took care of his mother. He talked to the cops. I mean, he's 15 years old doing all this stuff. And so seeing that and learning that in that environment and knowing, um, like seeing my son turn into a man before my eyes and the type of young man that he was becoming. I mean, I couldn't have got it any other way. There's no other
Yep.
way. And that's the silver lining. That's the blessing in that event was I learned a lot about who I had become and I learned a lot about who my son was becoming.
That's beautiful.
And
That's
all events don't have
beautiful.
to be that tragic, but we can still learn those lessons, right? Every day.
Well, even in the tragic ones, like
Yeah.
it's that silver lining thing is literally like the answer to almost all suffering in life. Because if we can look at life as your ultimate guru, your ultimate teacher, life is always teaching you. Whether it's like about yourself, it's usually about yourself, or about life in general, right? But it's always, life is benevolent, it's kind, and we have this complete misconception that life is hard, and that life is definitely hard sometimes, but that life is unfair and unkind and unjust, but it's not. It's perfectly balanced. It's always working in favor of you growing and evolving. So maybe
Hmm.
you took a bullet that day, but look at what you gained,
Yeah.
and
100%.
even like when I found Darcy dead in my house, like that was like the worst thing that had ever happened to me. And if if it didn't happen that way, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. Like I know that. Like I know that certainly, because I was not even close to the same person that
Yeah.
I am right now. That was the china cabinet, like that was
Yeah.
my, and if I hadn't opened that door, I mean, I could still be compartmentalizing all of that stuff and doing what I was doing, which was not so bad, but it was not this. And
Hmm.
certainly would not have set me up. I would have not come down this path without those experiences. And that was the worst thing that ever happened. The worst choice, my worst decision I ever made resulted in the worst thing I've ever been through, and also the biggest catalyst for growth that I have ever seen in my own life. So
No,
I absolutely
100%.
agree.
And you wouldn't be helping the people you're helping. And I'm telling you, whether you know it or not, you help people. You inspire and uplift people. You inspire me. I mean, and I know that there are others. I see the comments in your posts of people that are growing because of the content and the things that you're doing. And for that, I mean, we appreciate you. We love you for what you're doing.
Thank you.
So what you got coming up? You kind of shutting down a little bit for the holidays or what?
Well, not really. We did like a soft launch with the Academy in September, and I haven't done a lot with it because I hadn't really thought about the marketing part. I just kind of like was like, here it is, world.
Yeah.
And then over the last month, I was building a free 67-minute masterclass that just kind of links like it. The purpose of it is to give the three major secrets of why we sabotage and how to get unstuck, how to get out of
Hmm.
your own way for good, which is learning about the mind, learning about the subconscious mind, learning how to consciously reprogram your mind.
It all
And
comes back
then
to that, doesn't it?
it's
All
step
comes back
one,
to this stupid thing.
100%. Absolutely. Like it
Uh,
literally does. Your whole life lives here because everything you think about your life is what makes up your life.
yeah.
Like straight up. It's not even about what happens in your life, it's about what you think about it,
Hmm.
right? Because something can happen and affect four different people. And it
Yeah.
could mean four completely different things to each of those people based off of what they think about it,
So right. So
right?
right.
So I built that master class and I'm offering it for free. So if anybody wants it, I can send you the link, James, if you want.
Yeah,
It's
please
just
do. I'll post it in the description and for sure.
awesome. And then
Along with your
other
social stuff, I'll post that as well. I have all that
totally,
stuff. So yeah.
absolutely. And other than that, just enrolling people into the academy one by one. And I'm going to take some like chill time because I've been working really hard on putting all of this together. So I'm excited to just do my coaching calls, just connect with people, just talk to
Yeah.
people, and like, just be, instead of always I've been building those courses, like enrolling for those courses and then building the academy. It's just been and then we bought this house and it needs a lot of renovations. So, you
And
know,
Harley season's about over, so the rides are going to be going away for a while.
yeah, pretty much I mean, Jeff has still ridden a few times this month, but I'm a like double digits rider, so at least 10 degrees Celsius,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, because I'm telling you, that's the worst pain I ever had in my life was um I was my uncle needed me to he had left his Harley at my place and can't remember why, but anyway, he wanted me to bring it up to his house. It was like about 150 miles, not too far, right? But it was, I don't know, 35, 40 degrees Fahrenheit. It got to the point where I was having to stop every 15 minutes because my hands were just frozen. I just I couldn't grip the bars, man. It was the worst pain ever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah.
Jeff's got all heated gear. He's got heated gloves, heated hoodie, heated everything.
Yeah.
He's that like diehard rider.
Yeah. Well, hey, Jordan, I tell you what, I'm gonna let you get to your evening. Thank you so
Awesome.
much again for coming on. I love having you. Like I said, you are inspiring to me, and so and I know you inspire others. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm gonna have you on for a coach's corner when we do a nutrition one because I think you'd be a great addition. I usually get, like I said, two, three coaches, and we just get together and kind of go down some rabbit holes when it comes to whether it be nutrition or training, whatever. I think you'd be a great addition to one of those. And
Sure.
but with that, everybody, please like, subscribe, follow Make Moves Motivation. It's a great follow, and I promise you, you will get better because of the content that Jordan puts out. Give her some love. Thank you all again. Remember, you get out there and you work hard, peoples. Don't forget to smile. Thanks so much for watching or listening. Remember, don't forget to like and subscribe. You can find us on Facebook at Work Hard Peoples LLC or Instagram at Work Hard Peoples LLC. You can also find us on our website at workhardpeoples.com. Have a great day or night. Don't forget to smile.